Here's some proof that Bill O'Brien's staff knows what they're doing on the recruiting trail. Their latest commit, a flip from a D2 school, just earned his 4th star on 247.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. I'm the editor of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. I've been covering Boston College for over a decade. If you're looking for news, analysis, and details on your Boston College Eagles, you are in the right place. Locked On Boston College is a free daily Boston College podcast available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. On today's show, a concerning sign for BC basketball. What is it, and how could it impact BC basketball moving forward? I'll explain that. Let's get back into some Tommy Castellanos news, and I promise you this has to do with Boston College, and I'll explain why that is the case. And BC has another 4-star, and this is something that may surprise you. We'll start off with that. So on Wednesday, 247 released their latest top 247 rankings. Now, as you may know, a lot of BC recruits are not in this. This is the top 247 recruits in the country. Usually you'll see maybe one BC player or recruit on that list. This year it's been Mason Leak. But additionally, they gave out more 4-stars as part of this. So the bad news is Mason Leak is not in the top 247 anymore. He's a 4-star still. That's still good. You still have a 4-star edge. But Demeterius Thompson, their new edge rusher from Missouri, who flipped from Southeast Missouri State, and I kind of joked about this last week, he got a 4-star rating. Now, you've been going to yourself going, you know, I joked about it. You guys were all, I mean, many of you are like, who cares? This is a kid coming from a D2 school. Like, why should we be excited about this? And I said, look, his athletic profile, maybe he doesn't have the offers yet, but he's an athlete. He's a huge rebounder in basketball, meaning he's got the jumps. He's an athlete through and through. He's 6'4". He's got size. Don't poo-poo this. And I expected maybe an 86 or an 87. The fact that he got a 90, that was his grade, shows you a lot. Now, Alan True of 247, who I talk to pretty regularly, told me, AJ, you guys are getting a really good player. Demeterius Thompson, he thought this was a guy primed to flip, and it was a good get for BC to get this kid to commit to BC. Now, he came in during the Notre Dame game, committed a week later, and now you have 2 4-star edge rushers. Look at this roster. What do you need talent at? Edge rush. This is as good as it gets. And this surprises me because, all summer long, we were talking about Carter Gooden and Mason Leak being the 2 edge rushers that you would be building around. Now you have another 4-star. You got that 4-star edge, bookends there. And then you have Dom Funk in there too. So you have a ton of talent. This to me shows me something. And I'll explain a little bit why in a minute. BC their bread and butter is not going out there and getting blue chip recruits. If that's what you're expecting from recruiting, you're going to be disappointed year in and year out. No matter who's the coach here, they're not going to challenge teams like Georgia, Auburn, Oregon, USC, Ohio State. Those schools are going to smoke BC. That's not what they do. It's their ability of the coaching staff to find guys that have the talent that you can develop into solid players. Guys that we've seen many, many times here that never, had big recruiting profiles. Guys like Matt Ryan, Luke Kuechly, Donovan Azaraku. I mean, you could go up and down that list. There's so many guys that have come here that have not had big offer lists. Those are the guys that you want. Now, when you get them and then they're all of a sudden the recruiting sites are like, whoa, this is a good player. That's also a positive. And for the second straight year, this has happened to BC. Last year, Boston College, around this time, maybe a little bit earlier, flipped Sterling Sanders, a defensive tackle that was committed to Georgia Southern. And everyone had the same reaction. Oh, here's BC scraping the bottom of the barrel again. Literally the same thing that you guys said, many of us said about Demeterius Thompson. Guess what happened to him? He goes to some camps. He gets a 4-star. This is the second year in a row BC has landed a commitment of a kid that was under the radar, flipped them from a school that not many people would be recruiting, and all of a sudden the scouts look at this kid and say, whoa, that does not happen at BC unless the kid is good. Sterling Sanders, we didn't get to see this year because he was hurt for a majority of it, but he's going to be a major factor for Boston College moving forward. You needed edge talent. You got that with Thompson. That's a big time get for BC. I think this is so funny because this literally will go down as 1 week ago, everyone reacting with, Southeast Missouri State, even myself going, really? To, whoa, this guy could be a major factor in your recruiting class. He's the second highest rated recruit now, next to Mason Leak. That is impressive. So that's one big piece about recruiting that I wanted to talk about. The second piece I think that's important is that Brady Beckenhus, who had got bumped up to an 89, so he's right on the 4-star bridge. He got an offer from Wisconsin. Wisconsin, is not a school that's in great shape right now, though they just affirmed that Luke Fickell is going to get more money to play around with next year to help support him. But Wisconsin also just lost a pair of offensive linemen, and they're looking to fill that back up. So Beckenhus is one that they're looking at. Now, 247's website for the Badgers, John McNamara, says that it's trending towards an official visit. If that's the case, that's not good news. Beckenhus has been popular. I think UNC looked at him at one point. Auburn offered a couple weeks ago. That didn't go anywhere. BC needs to keep this kid. Of all the offensive linemen that they've landed, he's probably my favorite. I think he's probably the most talented that they have. But when you're going against Wisconsin, that's a tough sell. So this is something we're going to have to watch for. If he takes that official visit, flip season is definitely under wraps here, underway. Could they lose him to Luke Fickell? That's something to watch for. I've heard all along this process that Beckenhus loves BC. He's been committed for a couple of years now. He loves the staff. I think that BC still should be in good shape here, but and it's college recruiting, and you're dealing with 17 and 18-year-olds. Anything could happen. So I'm not going to be naive to say that the flip couldn't happen here. And when you're 1-10, that's par for the course. It kind of is. On tomorrow's show, speaking of that, I'm going to talk to you about a comment that many folks have said to me, which is, when you're 1-10, how are you going to even bring in transfers here? I'll explain that on tomorrow's show, so you make sure you want to hear that one. And before we get into our second segment, I apologize. I talked to Will Blackman. We were supposed to have an interview with him today, and I know many of you were looking forward to that. He had a prior commitment and had to wait until, I think he's going to announce the BC Syracuse game. He has to wait until after that. I think it's a contractual thing. So I have to wait for that after. I will make sure that I'm not going to tease it again, but when it happens and I actually get it in the can, I will let you guys know when it happens. Okay. So he is saying he's still going to do it. It just didn't happen today, and I apologize for that. So in a moment, Tom and Castellanos talk again. This one involves Boston College and the future, and I'll explain what that looks like in just a moment. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports book betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets to a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. I love using FanDuel because you can do it across sports. You could pick the Celtics to win, cover the spread, and pick, that Buffalo is going to beat Miami of Ohio and cover the spread too. You can add all that together. It's so easy to use. And I love FanDuel too because they always have like little bonuses on there. Today they had like pick a card, and on the card was a certain number that you would get. So it was like a 25% profit boost. It's always got little things like that. You can always find those on FanDuel, and that always makes, adding a wager a little bit extra fun. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that extra late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked On Boston College. AJ Black of Eagle Insider here. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston College your first listen every day. And to my everydayers out there, thank you so much for making Locked On Boston College part of your daily experience. All right, I promised you a couple months ago that I would stop talking about Tommy Castellanos. Listen, we've gone over his transfer. We've gone over the talking and the bickering between him and Bill O'Brien, his comments about Boston College as a school. We've gone past all of that. And you know, he played a season. Florida State probably won't even make a bowl, just like BC. That being said, he's back in the news. And look, 2026, he could be coming back to Florida State. He could be coming back to college football. Because, yes, he's had 4 full years of eligibility. But there's a new rule and a new eligibility system that puts in, does not count conference championship games as part of your eligibility. So he played 4 games at UCF before he came to BC. One of those games was the conference championship when he was in the American Conference. And so by that new ruling, he could technically still play. Now, they'd have to retroactively give him that extra year of eligibility. We don't know if that's going to happen or not. And so you're asking me yourself, AJ, why are we talking about him? Dylan Lonergan is the quarterback. Shaker Rising's the future. Why do we care about Tommy Castellanos? I bring this up because look at the schedule for next year. Coming to Chestnut Hill are the Florida State Seminoles. So there is a possibility that in 2026, when the Seminoles come, maybe if they have Mike Norvell, maybe they don't. We don't know that. There's a potential chance that Tommy Castellanos could be playing for the Seminoles. Now, just think of that for a second. There's been a lot of hate, and I've definitely spearheaded a lot of it, towards Castellanos. But we did it a lot with the fact that we knew FSU and BC were never going to play each other. And that just the assumption was that he would never come or play here. So it was all kind of just playful. Just think of what this is going to be like next year. What kind of circus that will be when he comes to Chestnut Hill. He's going to get booed. He would get booed at Alumni Stadium harder than any player I've ever seen. You know, maybe Jimmy Clausen would be one that I can think of that really got people going here. I also, you know, that piece where he's going to, you know, just get hammered by the fans. The other piece I look at is my worry that if he plays BC, his style of play against that defense, if BC's defense looks anything like it does this year, BC's going to be in a lot of trouble because he's the type of quarterback that could eat Boston College alive. That's the part that scares me because, you know, like, it would be so great if he came here and you put out Larnigan or Shaker Rising and they go out there and they outdo him and win. But BC's defense has been bottom of the barrel this year. And a lot of it had to do with injuries. But what's one thing that this defense really struggles against? Speed. And what does Tommy Castellanos have? Speed. So that just, to me, strikes a very ominous tone in my brain. Because I think there's more of a chance that Boston College is going to get hammered by Castellanos than actually beat him. And I don't need that. Look, we have sat through this 2025 season, and many of us are sucking that hopium that next year things will get better. Losing to Tommy Castellanos in the Florida State Seminoles and having him do God knows what after a win would be at one of the lowest points of this program. That cannot happen. So there's obviously a lot of variables here. He has not even said if they would accept, you know, that we don't know if they would give him a waiver. We don't know if Florida State even wants him back. I mean, who's to say that if Norvell comes back, that he wants Castellanos as his quarterback? They haven't done a whole lot with him. Maybe there's another quarterback that's a better fit for what they want to do. That is another piece. This is just something that popped up and I went, oh no. No. This cannot happen. So I thought I would bring that up. And so the other piece of the schedule, and I don't think I brought this up on the show yet, is that BC has a new out-of-conference schedule game for next year. And talking about making your schedule harder, it just got a whole lot harder because BC is going to be heading to, according to reports by FB schedules and a couple different sites, They're going to be heading to Notre Dame. They're going to be playing the Fighting Irish in South Bend. Now, I am not the biggest fan of this. Even though BC played really well against Notre Dame, going on the road at South Bend is not an easy task. And you look at their out-of-conference schedule, and already it looks, you have 3 Power 4 programs next year. In Cincinnati, you're going to Cincinnati, you're going to Notre Dame, and you're playing Rutgers. You're not making your life all that easy there. I guess you're going for the excitement, and your Catholic, holy war rivalry. That's fine. I am the fan of, I'd rather see wins than scheduling yourself into oblivion, because that's what this seems to be doing. Cincinnati's a top 25 team. You have to play them on the road. Notre Dame's a top 25 team. You have to play them on the road. That is tough sledding. So I am not the biggest fan of this. I get it. And I just, 1 year after a 1-10 season, I don't think is the best time of the year to go on the road to play at South Bend and to do it on purpose, like 365 days before it happens. Like you had the chance to go and do something else. Schedule UMass. I don't care. Just schedule yourself a win. You need to get some momentum going. You can't just go and play. This game does not make sense to me. And yeah, I want to see them play harder teams, but they got to get themselves back there. Scheduling yourself out of a bowl by making things harder for you right away is not the wisest thing to do. There's all sorts of other options they could go with here, and they chose this. I don't know. Maybe things will change. Maybe, they haven't officially announced it yet, but this is what I've read. And there's multiple sites reporting it, so it's something that I'm a little concerned about. Now, speaking of concerns, in our final segment, BC basketball has won their second in a row, but something keeps popping up that really, really gets me concerned. And I'll give you the details and a statistic that's making me shake in just a moment. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. Thank you all who have joined us, and thank you all to my everydayers and my first listeners. Again, you guys are the most valuable asset to this program, and I appreciate each and every one of you who made us part of your daily routine. Now, basketball. They defeated Hampton on, I had to think of what team it was, Hampton on Tuesday. They're going to be playing Davidson this weekend in the Charleston Classic. Now, they're 3-2. Definitely not the start of the season that you want. Even though you're above 500, these are where you needed to start to clean up some wins. You needed to beat, obviously, got to beat Central Connecticut, but also FAU. You should have been able to win that game. There's no reason they shouldn't have been 5-0 at this point, but they're not. One of the biggest concerns I have right now, sitting at 5-0, is this offense. The offense for BC is rated near the bottom in every metric you can think of, and I mean like 360th. They just do not score enough points. It's been counterbalanced by a very good defensive team. Now, bringing in Aiden Shaw for defense has been a gold mine. This guy can really play defense. He doesn't give you very much offensively, but he's averaging quite a few rebounds, and he's big and lengthy, and that helps. But I'm pointing out one specific issue that really has stood out to me about this basketball team as of now, and that's the guy that I thought would be the rock solid, anchor to this team. That's Donald Hand. Now, going into the season, Donald Hand said that BC was going to be a top 5 team in the ACC, and you could write that down. He's also probably the highest paid player on your team. I don't know the numbers, but I have to imagine he is, right? There's no reason to think he wouldn't be, because he's the highest scorer. He was the star. It was a big deal that you kept him out of the transfer portal. And 5 games in, he's been a major disappointment so far. The way he's shooting the ball is worrisome, because you need him to be your go-to scorer. He, at this point, through 5 games, listen to this number for a second, shooting 10% from three-point range. 10%. Last year, he shot 36.8% from three-point range. Down quite a bit. His field goal percentage was at 37% last year. It's at 30% this year. Again, it's down. His points per game is very similar, but he's not scoring. That's a big, big problem. The 3-point part is what really worries me, because An Earl Grant team is not usually known for having a good three-point shooter. You had Jaden Zachary a couple years ago. He was good. Obviously, Mason Madsen was good as well. You were hoping Hand would be that guy this year. He's shown it before. Shooting 37% is not bad for three-point shooters, unless you have an ace that can shoot in the 40s. He's pretty good at that. The fact that he's at 10% worries me because, honestly, the first couple games I watched, all I could focus on was that hitch in his free throw percentage, in his free throw shots, excuse me. And yeah, that's another issue. He's shooting 59% from the free throw line, excuse me. But I think all of this combines to make it seem like you have a guy that needs to be your star, and he's not playing like a star. You've had players like Fred Payne and Bowden Capke step up and be able to make some plays to keep you in games. But for BC to get to that next level, to beat teams like LSU, your ACC part of your schedule, you got to be able to have Donald Hand get out there and score points. And he's just not doing it. You can't bench him. That's not, you have to figure out how to get him to play through this. That's where we're at right now is how does he, end this little slump that he's on? And it's not like football where you bring in the backup quarterback to spell the guy that's not playing well. It's basketball. And sometimes when you have a player like this, you have to be able to just let him play through it. And that's tough. Now, you play Davidson this weekend. Davidson is 4-0. They haven't lost yet. They've beaten Washington State, Charlotte, Bowling Green, and DeSales. I don't know who DeSales is, but they beat them. And their Ken Palm rating is 122. So they're a good group of, like a mid-major. You're going to have to play well. You've already played one mid-major, FAU, and you lost. They were a good team, pretty good team too. Davidson is right in that range. You have to win this game. Things are not looking great because you've already lost a few. You're going into a tournament. This is kind of one of those spots where you can get some of that goodwill back. Remember what was it? Was it last year that they won? Last year they won the tournament that they were in. You have to be able to sometimes win those because you can't have what happened a couple of years ago where you go in and lose to Tarleton State and that kind of falls apart. So a good win here would be really good for BC. But you're going to have better play from Donald Hand. The supporting pieces are all there. I've liked what I've seen from a lot of it. You want to see more on the offensive side for a lot of these guys. But the missing piece, that missing ingredient for this team right now is the star. Donald Hand needs to be that go-to scorer, and he has not been that yet. Now, on tomorrow's show, I want to talk about the class of 2023 transfer portal class. Why am I talking about that now? Think about what happened the year before. It'll make sense. I'll talk about how BC can still build a recruiting class even after a terrible season. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some more things that are going on in college football. You know where to go if you want to get all your Boston College news. It's here at Locked On Boston College. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. I'm also available on Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, and TikTok. I do TikTok stuff now. I do videos. Hopefully check that out. Over on Eagle Insider, let me just tell you, if you're listening to this before, 4 o'clock, I think it is, there's a special flash sale going on right now. You can get 75% off our site. Go sign up right now. That's available only for a limited time, so make sure you check that out. If you've been thinking about it, you get the whole year for $30. And when that's done, you get Paramount Plus. So check that out. And make sure you follow me, and we'll see you again for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.